The offseason is officially underway for Philadelphia, and everything about the next few months will determine whether this team returns to being a true Super Bowl contender or stays stuck in neutral. What happened last season left a lot of fans frustrated, and a big part of that came from knowing the offense had a clear ceiling. With Kevin Patullo no longer in the building, the Eagles now face a pivotal reset. This is not a normal offseason. This is one where Howie Roseman has to balance the salary cap, draft capital, coaching decisions, and roster construction all at once, and every move has real consequences for 2026. Right now, the league's salary cap sits at a base number of about $295.5 million. And that figure is expected to rise once the NFL finalizes revenue from the 2025 season. The business of football keeps growing, and the Eagles benefit from that. As things stand, Philadelphia has roughly $20.2 million in cap space, ranking around the middle of the league. That number is before any restructures, extensions, or releases, and if there's one thing we know about Howie Roseman, it's that he can create flexibility when he needs it. Cap space alone won't fix this roster, but it gives the Eagles room to maneuver. Where things get interesting is the draft. Philadelphia is positioned to have 8 selections in the 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. They hold their own first and second round picks, a third rounder from the New York Jets from the Hassan Reddick trade, plus a projected compensatory third. They also have their own fourth, a projected compensatory fourth, a fifth coming from either Atlanta or San Francisco connected to the Bryce Huff trade, and another projected compensatory fifth. That is real draft capital. Those picks can be used to restock the roster, or packaged to move up, or even used in a major trade. The Eagles are not boxed in. They're flexible, and that matters. The first major issue starts with the offense. Philadelphia has to get the offensive coordinator hire right. Last season was painful to watch in the second half of games. The Eagles averaged only about 9.5 points per game after halftime, and there were 6 games where they didn't score at all in the second half. There were even games where Jalen Hurts failed to complete a pass after the break. That's not just execution. That's structure, sequencing, and feel for the game. The coordinator's job is to put players in position to succeed, and that simply did not happen consistently. Jalen Hurts' numbers in 2025 looked solid on the surface, but a lot of production felt empty. He finished under 65% completion, around 3,200 passing yards, 33 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a quarterback rating near 98.5. Hurts has already proven he can play at an elite level when paired with the right coordinator. Under Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore, this team went to Super Bowls. The challenge now is stability. The next offensive coordinator will be his 11th in 11 years, and that constant change affects development, rhythm, and confidence. If the Eagles fix the coordinator spot, the entire offense has a chance to breathe again. Then comes the offensive line, and this is where things get uncomfortable. Howie Roseman may need to rebuild parts of it. Philadelphia has always prioritized linemen in the draft, and that philosophy likely continues. There are internal options, too.
Landon Dickerson played center in college. Moving him from left guard to center could open trade opportunities with Cam Jurgens. Health also matters. Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, and Dickerson all battled injuries last season. The Eagles barely saw their young 6th-round linemen like Drew Kendall, Cam Williams, and Miles Hinton. Development has to improve. One thing the Eagles should avoid is overspending on offensive linemen in free agency. Those contracts often look good on paper and age badly in real life. Scheme fit matters, and many linemen struggle outside the systems they were developed in. A more realistic approach could be finding affordable, familiar talent. Mekhi Becton is an example of a player who fit well in Philadelphia before and struggled elsewhere. Sometimes players simply work better with one team's coaching and structure. Reuniting with the right pieces can stabilize the line faster than chasing expensive names. The pass rush is another defining storyline. The Eagles have young players like Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith contributing, even if the box score doesn't always tell the story. But Philadelphia has never been shy about investing in edge rushers. With 8 picks and some cap flexibility, there are multiple paths. One is keeping Jalen Phillips. After he arrived, the Eagles became the top-scoring defense in the league, allowing about 2 touchdowns per game. His impact was obvious. The concern is durability, but the production speaks loudly. There's also the trade market mindset. Players like Max Crosby fit everything Philadelphia values: motor, toughness, and pass rush skill. He plays with nonstop energy and would immediately change the personality of the defense. Then there's the idea of Myles Garrett. Depending on how Cleveland reshapes its roster, Philadelphia has shown interest before. A move like that would be aggressive, but the Eagles are built to strike when opportunity shows itself. Beyond splash moves, the Eagles also have to take care of their own. Jordan Davis is extension eligible and became an anchor inside the defense, both on the field and in the locker room. Signing him early could save money long term. Jalen Carter, coming off an injury-filled season, is another decision point. If he rebounds and explodes statistically, his price skyrockets. Locking him in early could be smart business. Reed Blankenship also matters. He won't break the bank, and continuity in the secondary helps stabilize coverage. Not every player will stay. Linebacker Nakobe Dean is respected, but injuries and cost make his future uncertain. Philadelphia has younger, cheaper depth behind him. This is where tough decisions come in. You can't keep everyone, and Howie Roseman has to choose where money actually improves the roster, not just preserves it. The Eagles also need to improve depth through drafting. Outside of a few rookies, last year's class didn't see much action. Cost-controlled players are how contenders survive cap pressure. Cornerback opposite Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean remains a need, and tight end becomes a major storyline if Dallas Goedert walks. Philadelphia has always valued tight ends, and finding the next one could reshape the offense. Everything connects. Coordinator hire, offensive line rebuild, pass rush investment, contract extensions, and draft development. This offseason is not about one move. It's about structure, identity, and fixing what clearly broke last year. The Eagles still have elite talent. The question is whether the front office turns that talent into a complete, balanced roster again. When you zoom out, the biggest mistake the Eagles can make this offseason is chasing noise instead of structure. Philadelphia doesn't need random headline moves. It needs cohesion. Last season showed that talent alone isn't enough if the system isn't clean. The offense never felt synchronized, and when games tightened in the second half, the Eagles didn't have answers. That's why the coordinator hire still sits at the center of everything. Scheme dictates protection, route concepts, tempo, and even how Jalen Hurts uses his legs. A better play caller doesn't just improve stats, it restores confidence across the entire unit. Hurts is still the engine of this team. Even in a downfield year, he protected the ball well and generated touchdowns, but the offense became predictable. Defenses sat on short concepts, pressured the middle, and forced broken plays instead of designed success. With the right coordinator, Hurts can get back to attacking leverage, using motion, and creating rhythm throws instead of constantly living in third and long. That also helps the receivers, because separation improves when structure improves. Speaking of receivers, the Eagles quietly face questions beyond A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. Wide receiver 3 hasn't consistently impacted games, and when defenses clamp down on the top two, someone else has to punish coverage. Whether that comes from development, draft investment, or creative usage, Philadelphia can't let the offense become a two-man show again. Then there's the identity of the offensive line. For years, the Eagles dominated physically. Last season, injuries and inconsistency chipped away at that. Philadelphia has to return to being the team that controls tempo, not reacts to it. When the line wins early downs, everything opens. Play action, RPOs, deeper drops, and designed runs for Hurts. Without that foundation, even elite quarterbacks look ordinary. Howie Roseman understands that, and the draft plus smart trades will be the main tools to restore it. On defense, Vic Fangio's system showed how dangerous the Eagles can be when the pass rush hits home. Coverage becomes simpler when pressure arrives on time. That's why edge rusher remains such a premium spot. Whether it's re-signing Jalen Phillips, drafting help, or swinging for a blockbuster trade, Philadelphia can't afford to let quarterbacks sit comfortably in the pocket. The city is built on defensive energy, and when the rush disappears, so does the intimidation factor. Depth also becomes a silent priority. Championships aren't won only by starters. They're won when injuries happen and the drop-off isn't massive. Last year showed the Eagles lack that cushion. Drafting, developing, and trusting younger players gives the roster elasticity. It keeps money flexible and keeps competition alive in camp and during the season. What makes this offseason fascinating is that the Eagles aren't far away. They're not rebuilding. They're recalibrating. The core is still strong. The question is whether the front office connects the pieces properly. Coordinator, trenches, pass rush, and long-term contracts. If those align, Philadelphia doesn't just improve, it re-enters the Super Bowl conversation quickly. That's why these next moves define the future of this franchise. Every decision sends a message about identity, toughness, and vision, and the fans will feel it from week one. One thing that still hasn't been talked about enough is how the Eagles manage expectations versus reality going into this next season. Philadelphia isn't a team that should be thinking small. The window is still open, but windows close fast in the NFL when contracts stack up in development stalls. That's why every roster spot now matters more than it did 2 years ago. The Eagles are no longer the hungry challenger. They're the franchise that has to prove it can sustain success instead of flashing it once and fading. Look at the back end of the defense for a moment. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean give you a young, athletic foundation, but football is rarely about just two players. Quarterbacks hunt matchups. If the Eagles don't stabilize the corner opposite them and create safety continuity, Fangio's scheme loses flexibility. Reed Blankenship becomes important not because he's flashy, but because he understands leverage, spacing, and communication. Those little things prevent busted coverages, and busted coverages are how games slip away late. And late-game performance is really what haunted Philadelphia. Too many times last season, the Eagles entered halftime with control and walked out flat. That comes back to leadership, preparation, and adaptability. A good coaching staff adjusts in real time. They don't just rely on the opening script. They counter-pressure looks. They change tempo. They force defenses to hesitate. If the new offensive coordinator brings that mindset, the Eagles instantly feel different in the fourth quarter. Another underrated piece of this offseason is special teams. Jake Elliott had the toughest year of his career. He finished with a career-low field goal percentage and missed kicks that usually felt automatic in the past. From 50-plus yards, his success rate dropped significantly, and in tight games, those points change everything. The challenge is financial. Moving on is expensive, so the Eagles may give him one more chance to reset mechanically and mentally, but pressure exists. Philadelphia is not a market where you coast at kicker. At the same time, punter Braden Mann quietly became one of the more reliable pieces on the roster. With all the 3-and-outs, he was constantly flipping field position. Bringing him back isn't flashy, but it supports the defense, and Fangio's group benefits when opponents start drives deep instead of near midfield. Roster construction also becomes philosophical. Do the Eagles chase stars, or do they chase fit? Philadelphia has always been strongest when it marries talent with scheme. You saw that when the run game exploded during the best years of the offensive line. You saw it when the defense attacked downhill instead of sitting back. Fit creates confidence. Confidence creates speed. Speed creates mistakes from opponents. And that ties back to the locker room. Jordan Davis's leadership, Jalen Carter's presence, and Jalen Hurts' voice all shape the culture. This team responds to internal standards more than hype. Extending the right players early sends a message that performance and accountability are rewarded. Letting others walk signals that availability and consistency matter just as much as name recognition. Then comes draft weekend, which may quietly decide more than free agency ever will. 8 picks inside the first 5 rounds allow Howie Roseman to attack multiple needs without forcing desperation. Offensive line depth, cornerback competition, edge rotation, and tight end succession all live there. The Eagles don't need rookies to be heroes, but they do need them to be functional contributors. Every cheap contract that plays well protects the salary cap 2 years from now. What makes Philadelphia dangerous is that they're not stuck. They have options. They can trade, they can draft, they can extend, and they can restructure. Few teams sit in that middle ground between contender and flexibility. If the Eagles execute, they don't just patch holes, they redefine what kind of team they want to be again. Physical, aggressive, disciplined, and unpredictable. And that's really what fans want to see. Not just wins, but identity. The feeling that when opponents line up against Philadelphia, they know the game will be uncomfortable. That's been missing at times, and this offseason is the chance to bring it back. Another layer to all of this is how Philadelphia balances patience with aggression. Howie Roseman has always walked that line. Sometimes he builds through the draft and internal development, and other times he strikes fast when a window opens. This offseason feels like one of those moments where timing matters more than comfort. The Eagles don't need a total overhaul, but they do need bold precision. Every move has to connect to the next one instead of existing on its own. Take the running game, for example. When the Eagles are at their best, everything starts with physical dominance up front. That identity didn't fully show last season. Too many early downs became predictable. Too many runs died at the line of scrimmage, and that forced Jalen Hurts into tougher situations. A healthier, deeper offensive line restores the entire offense. It's not just about yards, it's about dictating pace. When Philadelphia controls tempo, defenses get tired, pass rush slows down, and play action becomes lethal again. That also affects how Hurts is used. When protection breaks down, he becomes a survival quarterback instead of an attacking quarterback. The best version of Hurts is decisive, rhythmic, and explosive, not constantly scrambling to save broken structure. The Eagles need him throwing with anticipation, not hesitation. That only happens when coaching, scheme, and line play are aligned. If that alignment returns, the offense stops feeling stressful and starts feeling confident again. The same philosophy applies to the defense. Fangio's system